And then we work with that, and we're performing and working professionally with that, with what we've learned. But most people don't have the opportunity to just continue studying and furthering their encompassing all different kinds of guitar knowledge throughout their life. And when I read about Fernando's career, he's not just bought the record and tried to learn a few licks. He spent 3 years in India studying with some of the slide guitar greats. He's taught or studied at universities in China, in Turkey, in Greece, in Hawaii. And these aren't just sort of 2 or 3 week vocational trips. This is a man who goes and gets stuck in for 1, 2, or 3 years. And really, as an outsider who's dedicates his time to adopting all these different musical styles, he is able to learn them as a native, whilst also combining that information with everything else he's learned, different approaches to theory. And some of the stuff with the courses that we've been filming, especially Indian music, Turkish music, they don't use chords anyway, like it's just something so we find in the West so simple and so obvious. Every song has to have a chord, but there are so many completely different approaches to music, which are to some of us completely alien if we don't get involved and study and take on that knowledge. And so that's why Fernando is here, and to start with, to demonstrate and talk to us about the Indian approach to music making, to melody, to rhythm, especially to the slide guitar as well. So Fernando, thanks very much for joining us.
It was my pleasure here. Well, what can I say? I mean, like you said, it's a pleasure to be here and actually to be part of this world music method. Yeah, and with all these great people sharing, their knowledge about their music from their own backgrounds, or in my case, or those places that I've been living and where I grew up. Yeah. And well, today, yeah, we would like to talk a little bit about Indian music, about the guitar, and about many different details. Yeah, because really, to start with, the guitar is not really a main instrument on the Indian tradition. Yeah, until recent years, it was not really, not even like adopted or even approved, or allowed to be used on Indian music. Yeah, but thanks to some great masters who took it to really high levels of proficiency and beauty, the instrument got accepted in the culture, and nowadays is out there and representing their music and giving a lot of us a chance to play Indian music and in the instruments we like. Yeah, because me, like many people, I'm a guitar player. And of course, I always loved Indian music, and I love the sitar, the sarod, all the Indian instruments. But I was like, yeah, what? But I'm a guitar player. I wanted to be able. I wish I could be able to do it on my instrument. I don't want to just start with another instrument. Yeah. So having the chance to meet people like Pandit Vishwa Mohan Veena and or Debarshish Battacharya and all these masters, I got the chance to learn. Not just about Indian music, but really about how to transferring or using this music on the guitar. And not only that, but also taking it further if I want to use it on different projects or with different music, just composing my own original music or making fusion stuff with other styles, etc. No, already like knowing, even if it's just a little bit of the musical approach and how Indians look at music and how they use sound, is already very enlightening, because it has nothing to do with the way we think about music in the West. So it really brings a new, fresh perspective. Okay, so we're going to be talking about many things here, and also in the course we're showing different things, when on one hand when it comes to Indian music, how it works, but also on giving everybody the tools to see how to translate all this music into the guitar. Okay. I have here an Indian guitar per se, but there are other slide guitars that we can use, and I will show you some differences, and I will kind of demystify, like everybody will think like, oh, I should use only an Indian guitar. That's great. It sounds awesome, but you can play Indian music on a normal slide guitar, and you will not be missing anything. If you miss anything, it will be maybe just the makeup, but not the essence of it. Yeah. So no worries. And so we're gonna be just doing all that, and by understanding, and my point is like that by understanding well how to apply this new way of looking at music and how to play it into the guitar or the slide guitar, will open you the possibility not only to study this course and learn about Indian music, but also to be able to then learn from any Indian musician or master or record or whatever comes from there, because it's like you study guitar and suddenly you play some guitar and you will listen to a piano player playing jazz or playing another style, and you'll be able to learn things from that other musician. But when it comes to Indian music or other musics that we're not used how to do it on the guitar, sometimes we find, we think there is that limitation that, I should study only with a guitar player. And it's not like that. I mean, obviously it's good that you study with a guitar player to learn how to translate and then these skills, yeah, or the knowledge of the Indian music. But afterwards, I highly recommend to everybody to just, like we always do with many styles of music, just listen to many masters, regardless of the instrument they play, and just feed on that, and you get nurture from that, So I mean, even myself, I went to Indian slide guitar players to learn music in India. But then I learned a lot in many sittings with sarod players, sitar players, vocal singers. In India, first thing they tell you, if you want to play Indian music, you gotta just focus on the voice because it's the first instrument, and whatever else is just imitating the voice. Okay, every time you do a note and you start like dragging the note, all these ornaments that we're doing, we're imitating the sound of the voice, and the voice doesn't have certain barriers. And when it comes to move the note and pass through different sounds or pitches, etc. So it's a must. So I highly recommend you, like many Indian masters will recommend me, to listen to a lot of vocal Indian music, yeah, and think that when you're playing the guitar or any other instrument, and when it comes to play Indian music, just think that you're imitating, or you're trying to be a voice, but just through your instrument, yeah. So anyway, maybe we should start with the question of the instruments, okay? Because maybe some of you are already home with just a normal acoustic guitar with your slide or whatever type of guitar you have. So let's check a little bit of here, things that are happening. This is an Indian guitar. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. You will see different very fancy models. It's actually just a model that I made myself, because Indian instruments, when you get those Indian guitars, first thing to start with, are huge and heavy. And so if you want to travel around with them, it's quite a hassle, yeah. In my case, I have some of them, but then I made myself this, which is just the same thing, but just in smaller version, and also just improving certain things of the quality of the woods, etc., just to get a better tone, yeah. But anyway, things you gotta understand when you approach Indian music on the instrument is like, we always have like 2 or maybe 3 strings where we are actually playing the melody, okay? And then we have other strings that we're going to see in string instruments, obviously, like sitars, etc., that are doing other functions that we can substitute on a normal guitar, or we can actually not even use them, because imagine, I mean, we're doing all these things with different sets of strings on an Indian guitar or a sitar, etc. But if you think about like a bansuri, for instance, which is an Indian flute, the guy, the only half he has is just one note at a time, and it's still pure Indian and it's beautiful, okay? So Like I said, in many places, what we have is just 3 strings here. We're gonna be playing the melodies. In my case, I have 6 strings, like a normal guitar, okay? And then we have what we call the sympathetic strings or the tarap strings, which are right here underneath, okay? All these strings right here. These strings, the only thing they're doing, they're just ringing by sympathy. You know, when I play the notes, they start ringing and they create like some kind of sound or beautiful noise underneath the melody you're playing. So it's really cool. It sounds very Indian, but it's not like completely necessary to have that, you know, to be playing the Indian way. Okay, you'll see some examples of many people, you know, in the West who build as some type. What's that? So who build some type of like Indian guitar or sitar or guitar, sitar, things like that. And the first thing they do, you know, they start adding sympathetic strings and things like that, but they're not functional or they're not doing things like you would do on an Indian. Like you see examples where they will have all these strings copied on a guitar, but really when it comes to playing a melody, they're still playing the melody the same way they will play